Hi, and welcome back to our next module where we compare an empirical approach to product development to a defined approach in developing products. As you probably remember from our previous module where we covered the context of Agile, agility, hence empiricism, is all about fast feedback loops and fast learning. Now we want to compare those two approaches to product development using a slightly different diagram as we did before. This time, on the horizontal axis, we will have our time. And let's say we have a deadline that we want to meet. On our vertical axis, we have value. And value for us is two things. Number one, value delivered to our customers. And number two, knowledge value created for us as an organization, as a team, as individuals. Let's start with a defined approach first. This will be our blue curve in this diagram. Take a moment and think for yourself. How do you think does this curve look like? Maybe you even hit the pause button so that you don't see the results before you finish your own thinking process. You probably believe that we deliver value in a linear approach, or maybe even 80-20, so that 80% of the value is delivered after 20% of the time. Let's go through this step by step. In a defined approach, we usually start out with designing or writing the specifications. Think for yourself. Are we delivering any customer value while we do that? The answer is, of course, no. With the specs, we don't deliver any value to our customers. Do we create knowledge value? Yes, a bit. We get a bit more clarity on what we want to build. There are a lot of assumptions behind it still, but let's say we create a bit of knowledge value. Now let's move to the next step in a defined approach, which is the development of the product. It could be hardware, it could be software. Once we create the specs, we move into development. Again, ask yourself, do we deliver value to our customers while we develop the product? Again, the answer is very obvious, and it's an obvious no. In terms of knowledge value, we do create a bit of value for ourselves. We see how the different technologies work together. We get a better sense on how to use the technology, how to collaborate as a group. So we do deliver some value, but not towards our customers. Last but not least, we move into testing, integration, and finally releasing the product. And with this final step, we deliver the whole value to our customers at once. I refer to this as a big bang release. You've probably heard this term before. In comparison to this, let's look at an empirical approach. Again, take a few moments for yourself. Feel free to hit the pause button and think, how do you believe that we deliver value over time using an empirical approach? This time, probably you think, oh, we're going to deliver value step by step, the same way that we reduce uncertainty coming from the chaos domain step by step. And that's correct. Now I want you to remember one thing, and that is, with every step, you only deliver a product increment, not the full product. You might say, Saurabh, of course that's the case. We're not going to get something that we used to build in 2 years after 2 weeks. But trust me, some of your stakeholders might have that kind of an expectation. So now that we see these two curves, let's explore 4 distinct benefits of an empirical approach over a defined approach. And we will start out with the most obvious one. With every single increment, we can get feedback from our customers. We can learn whether they like the product or not. Whereas when we work in a defined way, we might get feedback on our requirements, we might get feedback on what we have developed, but the real feedback we get once we deliver the products, put it into the hands of our customers. And that's pretty much at the end. From my experience, that's way too late. With the feedback that we get early on, we can actually adopt, we can actually change our direction. So if we are going towards a moving target, we can actually make those adjustments. Whereas in a defined approach, this is not possible. Let's look at our second benefit. This time, think for yourself. If you deliver value to your customers, what do you get in return? For most businesses, it looks like this. We deliver value, we get money. And it's the same now in the empirical approach. The faster we can deliver value to our customers, the faster we can potentially make revenues. Obviously, this depends on the type of business model that we run. Whereas if you look at the defined approach, when do we make money? We make money only at the end. And of course, we hope that we will make much more money, but there is no certainty that we will. There are several risks out there. Risk number one, does the market actually like our product? And risk number two, is our pricing model going to work? And those risks we will only see late in time. The third benefit is something that is not so obvious, and it takes a lot of experience to actually see this. When you look at the different increments that we're delivering, you can also imagine the customer's reactions to each of those increments. We might start out with customers that are not so happy, right? And they give us that feedback, but over time they become happier and happier. And at some point in time, some of our customers or the majority of our customers might tell us, hey, this is good enough. What you have delivered allows us to do all the things we wanted to do, although some of the initial requirements are not developed yet. At this point of good enough, we have a choice to make. And the choice is whether we stop, which means we save time, we save money, or whether we deliberately continue developing the product, adding more features in order to either serve some niche segments or be able to charge a premium on our pricing. But this is a choice we can make once we follow an empirical approach. Imagine if you follow the defined approach, there is no way you can identify the point of good enough. Beyond the immediate financial benefits of identifying the good enough state, which means saving time, saving money, saving energy, you also have some other benefits. Benefit one is the longer-term financial gains that you have. A product that is stripped down to its essentials, that is basically good enough, it's also much easier to maintain. So in the long run, you save money and time on maintaining the product. A second benefit is the user experience. The less features you build in, which doesn't mean that you compromise on quality, right? You compromise on quantity. But the less features you have, usually the better the user experience that you get. Apple, as an organization, is a prime example for this. They never compromise on quality, at least not intentionally, but they deliberately compromise on quantity. They try to have the bare minimum number of features when they deliver a product to market in order to create a superior, a premium user experience. Now let's move to our fourth and final benefit of an empirical approach over a defined approach. And for this, I want you to take a moment and imagine one of your past projects, ideally a project that went on for a longer period of time. And I want you to think about how the reporting in that project looked like. Probably you used a traffic light reporting on that project, which is green, the project is great, yellow, there might be some challenges, and red, this is alarm, right? So let's look at your projects. Most projects start out green. Why? Because while we're writing the specifications, everything is green, everything is on time. Most of those projects are still green when we move into development, because right now we're building stuff, right? And we're hitting our timelines and so on and so forth. Once we move into testing and integrating stuff, we realize that probably our customers are not so fond of what we have built, or that the integration of the different modules doesn't work really well. So at the end, our project turns yellow and then suddenly it turns red. Now, most of those projects, once they turn red, also result in the project taking much longer than expected. I refer to these projects as watermelon projects. Green on the outside, red on the inside. And similar to a watermelon, these projects have been red all along. The problem is, until we break up that watermelon, we don't see that they're red on the inside. And the problem with a defined approach, despite all the risk management techniques that we use, is that we don't create enough transparency with regards to all of those risks. So what kind of risks do we face when we build a new product? Risk number one is the market risk. Do customers actually want what we're building? Risk number two is the financial risk. Are we going to make a bigger return than what we're investing in the product? And risk number three is the technical risk. Are we going to be able to build the product in the same way that we intend to build it? Now, if you look at the defined approach, we're mitigating or moving all of those risks to the end of the project. That's when the project turns yellow or red, because we deliver way too late to see whether our customers actually like it, whether our pricing model actually works, and whether the technology integrates really well. We can't assess whether the project is green or red. We just assume it being green because we're hitting the different milestones. The message here is not that an empirical approach to product development results in an all-green project. That's not the case. What we will actually see is that you assess those risks much earlier. That, of course, depends on how a product owner, for example, prioritizes the items in the backlog and how frequently you gather feedback from your most important stakeholders. But if you do this the right way, you will see early on whether your product actually meets market demands. You will also see whether you will be able to monetize your investments. And last but not least, you will also see whether the technology stack that you have chosen works well together. So summarizing this, we see four distinct benefits of an empirical approach over a defined approach. The first one is fast feedback, fast opportunities to learn, and the opportunity to change what we're delivering. The second one is the benefit of making money much earlier. Because if we deliver value earlier, we're potentially in the position to also ask for money from our customers early on. Benefit number three is the identification of the point of good enough, which gives us a deliberate choice of whether we want to continue building the product, hitting certain niche segments, or whether we stop and save time, money, and energy. And last but not least, we get to create much more transparency throughout the project so that we can avoid watermelon projects all along. I know this is a lot to think about, a lot to digest. So before you go into the next module, take a few moments and let that all sink in.